Out in Ohio, there are backroads that look harmless in daylight, just trees, ditches, and the slow curve of asphalt. But when night falls, those same woods start to feel crowded. For decades, drivers have reported pale shapes darting across the road, too small to be deer, too quick to be human. Hikers talk about that unmistakable pressure between the shoulder blades, the feeling of being watched from just beyond the tree line. And on stormy nights, some claim something comes closer. Quiet footsteps on wet ground, a faint tapping at a window, long fingers where no fingers should be. They call them the Melon heads. And tonight, the legend steps out of the forest.
Wisner Road in Kirtland, Ohio, looks ordinary in daylight. Just a ribbon of pavement stitched through woods and quiet neighborhoods. But legends don't need castles. They prefer places like this, where the trees lean in close, where the dark arrives early, and where the silence feels less like peace and more like attention. Locals say there are stretches where headlights seem weaker, where the air turns heavy, where you suddenly understand the ancient human fear of being watched and not knowing from where. Because somewhere beyond that tree line, if the old stories are to be believed, something small, quick, and wrong has been living there for a long time. They call them the Melon heads. The Melon heads as human-like figures, often whispered about as children, known for their unnaturally large, rounded heads and an eerie, hairless look. Accounts vary, as folklore always does, but the core image remains, something child-sized, pale, and watching. People claim they've seen them only for a second, near the roadside, between trunks of trees, or standing perfectly still where no one should be. A blink, a glance, and then nothing, except the feeling that whatever it was, it noticed the viewer back. In one of the most repeated versions of the story, the legend gathers around a name, Dr. Crow. According to local folklore, he was connected to a group of orphans, children already forgotten by the world, who became subjects of experiments that were said to be cruel and unnatural. The tale suggests their heads grew larger and larger over time, and their bodies changed with it. The story doesn't present him as a misguided healer. It frames him as something colder, curiosity without mercy, science without a soul. Some versions try to anchor the legend with a real-world condition, hydrocephalus, an illness associated with abnormal fluid buildup. But instead of comfort, that detail makes the story more disturbing. Because in this telling, the children weren't helped, they were altered, isolated, and used. The line between tragedy and monster story blurs, and the legend gains its sharpest hook, the idea that the horror began with human decisions. Then the legend turns, like many do, toward revenge. The children are said to have risen up against Dr. Crow. The tale describes his death and the orphanage consumed by flames. Not just a fire, but a symbolic erasure. A desperate attempt to destroy the place where they were made into something else. And some claim that, deep in the overgrowth, remnants still exist, burned fragments hidden beneath leaves and years, like the land itself never fully let go. After that, the Melon heads don't march into town. They vanish into the trees. The forest becomes their refuge and their cage, miles of cover, endless places to hide, and no need to explain themselves to anyone. And over time, the legend says, they turned feral. The story claims they watch roads, watch cars, watch hikers, and when someone gets too close to the wrong place, especially at night, the woods don't feel empty anymore. Every legend has a map pin, one location where the story concentrates until it feels almost physical. For the Melon heads, that location is Wisner Road. It's described as the epicenter, a winding route bordered by dense woods, a place where people report a sudden quiet and an uneasy sense of being observed from just beyond the headlights. And that's the trick of a road like this. It turns travel into vulnerability. You can't see far. You can't turn quickly. And the trees, towering on both sides, make every second feel longer. People who claim encounters rarely describe a full face. The reports are brief: a figure at the forest edge, a shape that ducks away too fast, something standing where a deer should be, then gone. The legend feeds itself on these fragments. It doesn't demand proof, it thrives on uncertainty. Because the mind is a faithful projector, give it darkness, a story, and one strange movement in the trees, and it will supply the rest. A different branch of the legend trades Gothic villainy for modern paranoia. In this version, the Melon heads are tied to secret government projects, whispered experiments meant to improve intelligence, engineer the next evolution, or create something that was never meant to exist outside a lab. The story says the results were unstable, the subjects escaped, and the woods became the only place to disappear. It's a narrative built from mistrust, of institutions, of secrecy, of the idea that somewhere, someone is always testing limits and calling it progress. Some stories go further, suggesting extraterrestrial influence, alien contact, hybrid theories, a shadowy blending of the human and the unknown. Whether anyone believes that part is almost beside the point. Urban legends are living things. They mutate with the era that tells them. One generation fears a cruel doctor. Another fears a locked door labeled classified. Another fears the sky itself. Same monster, different mask. There's a reason this story persists, despite the lack of photographs, despite the absence of proof that satisfies daylight thinking. Because the Melon heads represent something older than evidence, the fear of what happens when the vulnerable are abandoned, the fear of secrets kept in quiet places, the fear that the woods near your home are not purely nature, but a border. And borders are where stories breed. Wisner Road doesn't announce itself. It doesn't warn visitors with signs or barricades. It simply exists, quiet, green in summer, skeletal in winter, always waiting for night. And maybe that's why the legend sticks, because anyone can drive it. Anyone can slow down for a second too long, glance into the trees, and wonder if they saw a shape where no shape should be. The Melon heads don't need to step into the light to survive. They only need the dark, and a human imagination willing to fill it. So if you ever find yourself on a lonely road in Ohio, with the forest pressed close and the silence growing loud, remember, legends don't chase everyone, they only have to choose one.
In the end, the Melon heads never give anyone the courtesy of an answer. No clear origin, no proof that holds up in daylight. Just fragments, whispers of secret experiments, rumors of something not quite human, and the same warning repeated by locals who won't drive those roads after dark. Because legends like this don't need to be photographed to survive. They only need a stretch of woods that feels too quiet, and a traveler who glances into the trees at the exact wrong moment. And if Wisner Road has taught anyone anything, it's this. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what you see, it's what might be watching back.